Hello guys, I started my watch collecting journey 10 years ago with this Poljot 17 Jewels as my second watch at that time, when we found it accidentally in the drawer. It was my father's first watch. He used it from the early 70s to the mid 90s. And also this Poljot was the first wristwatch I've ever seen in my life as a kid. I remember in the 90s we laughed at it with my brother. It seems pretty crappy that you have to wound it every day to show you the time. Knowing shit about watches at that time, of course. Living in a post-communist country, you can probably guess it from my shitty Hungarian accent and poor scripted English. So living in a country like that means we have these Soviet and East German watches everywhere. Back then, they were the only portable time-telling devices widely available for the masses. People building the communist utopia with one of these watches on their wrist, while driving a Trabant like my father did. For example, it is my grandfather's Pobeda, a fellow Russian communist watch, the brand positioned below the flagship Poljots. But of course there are Western watches which were available here. My other grandpa was a big fan of Doxa, which was the brand worn traditionally by railway workers in our country. He had two of them, a mechanical and a quartz. He also wore this little quartz watch through my childhood. But his first Doxa was this dress watch from 1961, as you can see here. With a manual wind ETA movement modified by Doxa, called the 103 movement. Really a high quality piece in the inside, but outside you can see how badly the chrome plating wore off from this brass case. Nonetheless, I considering take it to a watchmaker. I love the dial patina and the domed acrylic window. I mean, look at how incredibly beautiful it is. This watch screams 60s for me. Oddly, my grandfather wore it on this retro razor bracelet with the expansion links. but because of the watch is not in working condition, so it's not working, I snap it on to the Poljot, which is a legit early to mid 70s watch, and it looks periodically correct for my eyes. Embracing the full metal look of the watch. Some other cool facts about the Poljot brand. The first Moscow watch factory was established for military purposes in 1930 at the command of the dictator himself, Stalin, and later got the Poljot name, which is a Russian word for flight. Cosmonauts or astronauts like Yuri Gagarin and Alexei Leonov also wore one of these watches, the Strumansky and the Strela chronograph for space missions. So we can confidently say this factory officially produced the first watches used in space. The specs of this watch: it's a 36mm, rather sport casual looking chromium plated brass timepiece. With the 17 jewels only hand windable Poljot 2614 2H movement. There is no quick set date here. The only way to advance the date by advancing the time, so it's almost never correct because I don't bother myself setting it, as I wear it only once a month for 2 days. By the way, the Poljot keeping decent time usually, but being capable of some craziness as well from time to time. Sometimes it loses 2 minutes a day, or another day I couldn't able to wind it up at all. Just gave it a few shake and it starts running. So it was serviced in 2013, the year we found it. Then the spring was broke after I accidentally overwound it. Now, 10 years later, maybe it's time for another service. My other problem is I have too many watches, that's why I always considering to retire the old Poljot. However, this retro razor bracelet spiced up the relationship a little bit. Finally, let me show you my other heirloom watches. The oldest one is this pocket watch from my great grandfather. It's a Swiss-made Lanco, brand of the Langerdorf watch company from the late 40s or early 50s, as it was documented in the inside of the case back with the different dates and the service markings. This is 11/46, and here is a clear date, 1954. The watch was made out of silver. And look at this movement. Let me wind it up. Low beat as hell, but still running a few hours if I want it. With an Art Deco style, pretty well patinaed dial under the discolorization of the acrylic window. And yes, and here is my Pierre Lannier. My grandparents gifted this lesser known French watch to my uncle back in the 90s. And now he gifted to me with the mechanical Doxa, as I am the only watch guy in the family. It was made in France, as you can see on the case back. Made in France. With a 1 jewel Swiss parts Ronda quartz movement. Gold plated brass case, held up badly. Definitely not that aesthetically pleasing for the eyes, but very elegant. By dial with Roman numerals, and the size is comparable with my other 90s analog heirloom watch, the Casio MQ-24. So it's almost the same size. Otherwise, the case and the dial design is very similar to one of those vintage Seiko Dolce models. Let me put this on the wrist. Yeah, definitely pretty elegant. Okay guys, that's all for today. All of my heirloom watches worth mentioning in this quite a long video. So, thank you for watching. Bye.